Welcome back to the Let's Glow Show. It's Amanda Sweet, the Creative Fairy Godmother, and I help people get fly, make friends, and save the world through community. And here on the Let's Glow Show, every single week we interview an amazing creative entrepreneur. And this week we have our very first international guest, Miss Akeila Browne.
Oh,
Welcome. I am excited for today because the first time I met you was
mhm.
at the Miss Voluptuous pageants, and you were sitting on the panel and you were judging, and I was like, this woman is amazing. Like, I just want to hang out with her.
Oh,
I'm gonna go grab a tea. Like, let's talk. But before we get into all that juicy good stuff, tell the beautiful people who you are and what you do.
Thank you. First of all, I love that introduction, Amanda. So thank you. So my name is Akeila Browne, and I am a therapeutic coach. And I'm also co-founder of a social enterprise as well. And in America, that means a nonprofit organization. I coach women entrepreneurs, and I also work with young people who they're at risk of exclusion from school and society as well. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
And why? Tell me why. Like, what led you to coaching? And I know we can go
Mm.
all the way in, but that's my first question. Why coaching?
Let's dive into this. There's so many reasons, but there's one in particular that stands out in my mind, and I tell this story all the time actually. I had my youngest son when I was like 27 years old, and I've got three children, by the way, so mum is also, yeah, my title. My youngest son, I had him when I was 27, and he was about 3 months old at the time. And there was so much stuff going on in my life, a lot of stuff that just wasn't the best. And I went back to my high school as I lived not too far from there. And I saw the head teacher he used to teach me Spanish when I went to that school.
Mhm.
And I walked in and he was like, come on in. I've got so many questions to ask you. It's amazing to see you. And he remembered who I was at that point. And I remember he took my son and he was holding him in his arms and he's walking around his office and he's asking me tons of questions like, so what do you do for a living? And at the time, I was a data manager in a university. And he was like, oh, you don't like that. That's not you. I'm like, it's all right, pays the bills. Like, no, that's not you. Tell me more. He was asking whether I'm happy. Am I happy with life? And it felt like for the first time ever, someone asked me the question and waited for an answer that just wasn't my automatic yes. He waited for the true answer, the authentic answer.
Mm.
And he broke down what I used to be like at school. He broke down all of the things that I was good at, all of the things you remember that you forget, sorry, as you become an adult. And he was like, "You spoke too much. You're very creative." He's like, "You spoke a lot. You were a problem sometimes, but you were very creative. Where
Yeah.
are you using that creativity now?" And there was nowhere in my life I was. Then he was like, "Are you happy?" The truth is that I wasn't. And I was like, no, not really. So what kind
Mm.
of things do you do to make yourself happy then?
Oh,
And without me knowing, in that moment, I had my first unofficial coaching session.
yeah.
After that, I ran home and started looking up all types of coaches, Tony Robbins. I was
Oh,
looking at Lisa Nichols. I was reading so much stuff
yeah.
to try and find out who I really was on the inside. And
Mm.
that was the day that my life completely changed. So I felt, well, if that's happened to me, how many moms, how many women are there in the world who would like someone to ask them those questions, but don't have someone to hold that space for them, someone that they can trust? And
Mm.
literally the rest is history from that day. So
Okay, so fast forward. What are you doing right now? I know you gave us all the titles and the names, but like, what are you doing today?
okay. So in my private coaching practice, I am working with phenomenal female entrepreneurs. And what I help them to do is uncover what their inner genius is. I find that men, they run their businesses in a very specific way. Let's
Mm.
niche down, let's focus on the one thing, let's understand how we're doing this thing. Productivity, 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 right?
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And as women, we have a certain energy that needs to come through our business as well. And even when we think about niching and how we present to the world, it's often through our genius. And that isn't our genius in terms of intellect, but our genius in terms of our essence and who we are. So I help women to uncover their genius and literally sprinkle that over everything. So if you're a coach, I help you to create programs that infuse your genius. If you're an entrepreneur, I help you to lead with your genius. If
Mm,
you are in an organization, I help your team to find their genius and their individual genius as well and create businesses based from that place.
mm,
Then on the flip side, the nonprofit organization is called Elevated Minds. And we work with young people who are at risk of exclusion. And that could be because of the backgrounds they come from. Some of them are involved in gangs and crime. Some
mhm,
are vulnerable due to mental health or their experiences. And our small team, we work together to use coaching and facilitation as a way of digging deep within them as well to improve emotional resilience, emotional intelligence, and self awareness too. And so
mm.
that's what we're working on at the moment. For those listeners that are in the UK, we're in a couple of cities, London and Birmingham in the UK. And one day we hope to be international as well. So that's
I
where we
mean,
are.
with the start, like somebody's gonna fall in love with you, I'm sure. From Detroit, Michigan, in the United States, and be like, what's Akila's number? I'm like, here, give me because I'm so curious about this genius thing. Like, tell
Yeah,
me more about what when you say genius, what does
yeah.
that mean in layman?
So, your genius is your essence. And when I was looking into genius, first of all, I read the book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
Big
And
leap.
he focuses the big leap. And
Oh,
yeah, and in that book, he focuses on your zone of genius. And as I'm reading this book, I'm like, this is amazing. You know, your zone of genius is the place where if you spend your time in this place, you create phenomenal things. It's the place where all of your experiences that you've had, your skills that you've got, the things that you're really good at, it's like it all aligns and it's
mm,
when you're in flow. And as I'm reading this book, I'm like, no, this is phenomenal. This is next level.
yes.
However, there's something still missing for me. There's something it's a little bit deeper, like our energy wasn't in there. Our
Mm,
spirit of who we are isn't in there as well. It
mm,
doesn't talk about how we show up in the world. It doesn't talk about being able to name your genius and actually use it as something. So when I speak about genius, it's about looking at, are you a visionary? And what does that feel like for you? And how do you bring that out? Are you a creative person? Do people see you as like the wise one, for example? Are
mm.
you the courageous warrioress? You know, what is it that you do and how can we, or how do you be and how can we pull that out even more and bring that into your business?
Okay, so I love this, and it's called the Creative Leap or the Leap. The
The
name of
big, the big leap is by Gay Hendricks.
I need to put it down because otherwise.
Yeah, write that down. Write that
Okay,
down.
found it.
Yeah,
Beautiful. Um, but I love that you're going deeper, and I think it sounds like this was written by a man.
yeah, it was.
No, it's like, okay, so the
Hmm.
feminine essence goes so deep. The spiritual connection with nature and other people is just like it's rooted in us. And I
Absolutely.
love this. Like, I just want to dive deeper in it because I'm just so curious. And for me, I've been struggling to figure out what I do, who I am. So if any of you have been rocking with me since I was like 21, when I first started my Instagram, when I was like emceeing hip hop shows and like
Oh,
learning about who I am as a person, like I've called myself a lot of things. And I've landed
hmm.
recently on this Creative Fairy Godmother.
Yeah.
And something about that title helps me bring about this essence that I didn't know, like I don't know how to describe it. But like
Mm,
if
okay.
I right now, where I am in my current life, if I put on fairy wings, I'm a
Hmm.
different person. If I put on my fairy ears, I'm a different person. If I put on my fit that I'm like, okay, this is the fit of all fits, I
Yeah.
become this creative fairy godmother. But I feel
Mhm.
like I'm struggling right now. And I feel like a lot of people that are watching could probably attest to this. When
Yeah.
I'm not wearing my fairy wings, when I'm not wearing my fairy ears, when I'm not in the fit, when I'm at home on this couch right here in my pajamas, no hair, makeup, nothing. Sometimes I feel disconnected from that person because when I'm doing that stuff, when I'm out there, when I am Amanda Sweet, the creative fairy godmother, I'm in
Yeah.
a flow state. When I'm
Okay.
with Amanda, sometimes I'm like, am I
Mhm.
not good enough? Am I messing
Mhm.
up? Was that weird? Was it weird that I did that thing with the fairy wings on? Was it,
Yeah.
and I feel like there's this like,
Sounds like there's a disconnect between who you're being when you've got the fairy wings on and when you're at home sitting on the couch, right?
right, but this person with the fairy wings on, I
Mm.
like we click in, right?
Mm.
We click in and it flows out of me. I have not no control, but I'm
Yeah.
free. When I'm
Okay.
here, I'm like,
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what advice? Because I know a lot of people that are finding their creative genius out in
Yeah.
the world, out in public. But how do you
Mhm.
connect the two?
Oh, so many things that you can do. And I'm loving that you brought this up as well, Amanda, because this is something that I work on with my clients of how to kind of like merge the two. The first thing is that whoever you're being with the fairy wings, you're already her in real life. And what I'm hearing is that you haven't given yourself permission to be her in your real life.
Mm,
Yeah, that's the first thing that's coming up for me when you said that.
yeah.
And
Ooh,
then the second, how did that land for you?
like right here, like
Okay.
right down the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something we have to do as women, you know. Everyone's got alter ego. Beyonce's got Sasha Fierce. She will put that alter ego on, and
Yeah.
that's who she is, right? So she automatically flips the switch. Everyone's got that. When
Mhm.
you're in your real life, though, you still also have access to that, but you have to give yourself permission to access that person, that place of being for you. That's the first thing. Okay, I don't know if you've frozen, if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Okay. We've been having a lot of rolling power outages lately,
Having
but
a
we're
moment.
good. We're doing great.
Okay, good. I'm thinking as long as it's not mine. The second is that one of the most powerful things that you can actually do is give your genius a name. And
Mm,
the reason why we can't access it sometimes is because we're not even aware that that's what we do. You know, we go through naming ceremonies of pets, like, you know, my pet's called Ziggy. We give him a name. That's what we call him.
oh, he heard. He heard. Listen.
When it comes to our genius, we don't give our genius a name. So how are we supposed to call that and bring that into our life,
Yeah.
right? So my genius is called curating presence. That's exactly what it is. If I am drinking a bottle of water and I choose to be in that space, I'm creating presence. If I'm talking to you right now in this space, I'm curating presence. I'm with you. I'm wholeheartedly with you, focused on you right now. If I'm with my kids, I'm curating presence. If I'm reading a book, I can tap into that. I've given it a name.
Mm,
So I would like for you to think about all of you and
yeah.
think about, first of all, we're going to do this in a process. The first thing I want you to think of is when you walk into a room and you walk into any party, what is a special gift that you bring to that party?
Magic. That's the first word that came to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So magic is the thing that you bring. The next word we're going to tap into is called a gerund, and that means it ends in the word in the letters ing. So mine's creating. You could have organizing, you can have thinking, you can have being.
Mm,
It just has to end in the word ing. Yeah.
NG.
And so
Mm,
I would like to think for you to think of what you do with that magic. Okay. And I would like to think of a word.
spreading. The word spreading.
Spreading.
And
Okay.
not infecting, because that's cute.
I
But
feel like spreading has a whole a
yeah,
different feeling to
yes,
it.
but I do notice, like if
Yeah,
I'm one-on-one, it's
yeah.
like, I can pass it over. I can hand it over.
Okay.
I can giving. If I'm in a big group, I can
Yeah.
ripple it out. Like I
Oh.
can literally spread it out. I can just be like, here's some for you, some for you, some for you. A little
Mm.
Oprah moment. But I definitely think
Okay.
that I have an abundance of it, so I'm
Yeah.
not scared to let it go.
Okay.
Pull it out of other
So
people.
you have an abundance of this magic, right? And whether it's on a one-on-one, if it's in a room, it literally ripples out. So you're spreading this magic. So I want you to imagine that you've got this genius right here and you're being able to spread this magic. You're spreading magic. So wherever you go, you're able to focus on Amanda spreading magic. So when you're at home on your
Yeah,
sofa, I'm wondering how you can bring the spreading magic into your everyday and every moment of your life.
I love this, first of all.
Okay.
Second, I'm thinking about just if I'm like removing myself and reflecting on that
Mm,
version where I'm questioning myself.
yeah.
Usually because I'm not doing what I'm being called to do, like whether it be dancing or like, you know,
Mm,
running
mhm,
around, doing something, going out. I said no to going out, or I said no to
yeah.
something that felt like it was good, but I was like, I have responsibilities.
Mm,
So I'm
mhm.
cutting myself off and then talk like
Self.
reprimand myself for
Yeah.
not doing the thing that I was hoping to do. Um,
Mhm.
and so I need to figure out how I can be like, hey girl, it's cool if you want to take a nap.
Well, how would the Amanda that's spreading magic, how would she talk to herself if she's spreading magic? What would that be like?
Mm, it would just be allowing and accepting, just like it's like I talk to all my friends, like, oh, I didn't do this thing I was supposed to do. And I'm like, and you can try again later, and you can try again
Mhm.
tomorrow. It's all
Mhm.
good, like don't beat yourself up. But here
Absolutely.
I am, doing the same thing.
Mhm.
So I would probably just gas myself up. If Amanda
You
talked to Amanda.
would. You would talk to yourself differently and try this on. Try this on in terms of waking up every day and bringing this genius gift to yourself. It's yours. And there is a deeper process that we can go through for you to find this and really allow it to anchor in within yourself. And that was just a really quick snippet of how to do it.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
feel like it's pretty replicable. So if you're watching,
absolutely.
I'm curious what you come up with.
Yeah, let
Do
us
it.
know what you come up with. Let us know what your genius is just from that little bit that I told you, and actually just use it in your everyday life because you get to tap into it, you know. Something you spoke about there, Amanda, though, is that there's a whole lot of mindset and conditioning stuff that we have as women, we have as people, we have as creatives, that well, actually, you can't do this like that in that way. You have to be more sensible. There's so much conditioning that we have, and Gay Hendricks describes it in the book as hitting an upper limit as to how much of the good stuff you're actually going to allow into your life, you
Mm,
know? And so it's being able to identify your genius, but work through things on so many different levels. Yes, there's mindset. There might be some emotional stuff that's going on that you might need to release. There could be some energetic stuff, we all have trauma as well, which leads to our conditioning as to how we show up in the world. So there's levels to this. There are levels, you know.
yes.
But starting and identifying what your genius is actually something really powerful. And if you can
Exactly.
write that down, as in spreading magic, you can ask yourself how that gets to show up for you every day.
Mm. This is going to be a game changer for me because
Okay.
I've recently adopted, so I listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks, and
Okay.
I've recently adopted her 17-second rule. So
Mhm.
you have 17 seconds before you're stuck in a mind shift for the current segment that you're in. And I'm
Mm,
also really trying to adopt like segments of intention. So
yeah.
before walking into a new space or before pouring a new cup of coffee or going to the bathroom and exiting the room, like going into a room and exiting a room or whatever. Um, where, because sometimes when I'm at home, we'll just talk about at home Amanda. If
Yeah.
at night, I'm conditioned to feel like I get cranky because
Mm,
my whole life, like my mom and my sister and my siblings would be like, "You're so cranky before bed.
mm,
You're such a
mm.
blah, blah, blah," you
Okay.
know. And also before I met my husband, like younger version of me, my first emotion was usually anger. As
Mm,
weird as it might sound, because I've untrained myself from that experience. Like I'm not an angry person. I was just in a
yeah.
bad environment that
Yeah.
caused a version of me to come out for survival. That
Mhm.
is what was required of me. It's
Yeah.
not required of me anymore. So I remember when my sister met my husband for the first time we were dating, he was like, she said, just don't wake her up from a nap because otherwise gonna be a different person,
Yeah.
right? So I'm actively trying to untrain and uncondition myself from being that person that's like cranky before
Yeah.
I'm like gonna go to bed. Because for a long time, and now that I'm stepping on the outside of it and looking at the pattern,
Mhm. Mhm.
spreading my magic all day while I'm at work. And if I get cranky at
Absolutely.
night,
Yeah.
the only version of my husband gets to see of me is this
Mm,
cranky version of me,
mhm,
right? It's not who I am. It's who
mhm,
I've been conditioned to participate as. So I'm
mhm.
seeing this pattern and I know it's not real and it's not who I want to be. It's not
Yeah.
in my essence, and maybe I need to, maybe I need a glass of water. Maybe I need to feed myself. Maybe I do need to take a nap. But I
Yeah.
need to be able to understand what those cues are before I
Mhm.
fall into that preconditioned space of being cranky at
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
And so something I'm working on is that like 17 seconds. So if I catch myself being cranky about something that I should be doing or want to be doing, like going for a walk in the evening,
Mhm. Mhm.
like I don't want to, right? But
That's what
lately
it's
I've
called.
been like, be cranky for 17 seconds, and I'll think about the
Exactly. Exactly.
stand up and go and be like, we're in a new segment now. We're in a
Mm,
new space now. If I'm gonna get up and go, I can switch my attitude over. Like I
yeah.
am capable of doing that. But I think this spreading magic thing is gonna be really good for me because in that moment of 17 seconds, I can be like, am I spreading magic right now?
Absolutely. You get to ask yourself different questions, and I want us to just let the listeners and everyone watching know as well. It's not about just bypassing those feelings because it's important for us to acknowledge the way that we feel. And I love what you just said, asking yourself, well, do I need a glass of water? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I actually need a nap right now? What is it that I need?
Yeah.
And we teach the young people that we work with, there's a lot of teenagers that we work with,
Mm-hmm.
and teach them the power of the pause, which is very similar to what you
Mm.
just described, where it's pausing for a second and asking myself before I respond, what is it that I want? What do I need right now? How do I feel in this moment, And just giving yourself those few seconds to pause before you respond allows you to choose what you do next rather than just react to what you
Yes.
do next. Yeah. So it
Yeah,
sounds like a very similar thing that you're doing.
I love that because I feel like I am conditioned to do what everybody else wants.
Yeah.
Woman, as someone who's been through some abusive relationships and situations, I feel like I'm conditioned to be like, whatever you want, right
Yeah.
away, whatever you want. And
Hmm.
I'm actively working out of this people pleaser experience. And it's been great, but I still think I see it in myself where somebody's like, we should do this. And I'm like, okay, sure. Even though I'm like, I really
Yeah.
don't have
Yeah.
the bandwidth for that. I don't have the time for that. And then that's when the cranky starts, you know? 'Cause I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, you should take a nap today. You should have taken
Mm,
a nap today. So
mm,
it's that I love this pause. I love
absolutely.
your genius. That's so okay. I need to know what was it like for you to name your genius?
Oh, it felt like the most amazing thing to do. It felt so empowering, curating presents for me because I was multi-talented, multifaceted. I I struggled for ages to think of what I wanted to do. My
Mm,
friends used to call me a workhorse. They really did because they said that I didn't hold a job for no longer than a year ever. And a lot of the times it was way shorter. And
oh,
it always felt like I was running and I couldn't figure out what it was that I was good at. And then I fell into coaching. And even then, coaching and running my business, I was very general. I couldn't figure out what I was actually good at. So to sit down and think about my genius, to feel
mm,
into my genius, and it took me, I'm going to say about 2 to 3 years to name this because there was no actual process I was following.
sure.
But once I did and I noticed what that genius was, it has been an absolute game changer. I include it in all of my programs, in my one-to-one sessions, even when I'm speaking on stage.
Mhm.
In the nonprofit, it's in there as well. I weave it into literally everything, even at home. You know, I do it all the time. So once you know it, it's a game changer for you.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you do when you feel some like resistance towards a thing? Like, how do you get out of it? Are you using all the tools that you're sharing with these teenagers, or you're like doing something a little different?
Loads of tools. I mean, it's easy for me to sit here and say, well, I live in my genius all the time, which is
Right.
it's a lie. It's a lie because I don't. But there are tools that I use because I hit resistance, and we might go into that throughout, you know, a bit more of my story throughout this session. But I hit resistance all the time. And the first thing I have to tell myself is that it's safe to want what I want. You know, it is safe to want what I want because coming from a background where there was so much crime that I observed, there's a lot of situations I've been through myself where it actually wasn't safe to be me in that situation.
Mhm.
To know that actually not only am I being me, I want to be more of me, I have to
Mhm.
remind myself that it's safe for me to do that. I also surround myself with people who see my genius. And
Yes.
I make a conscious effort to do that. You know, those quotes about whoever you surround yourself with, you become them.
Yeah.
It's not just a nice quote for social media, it's actually fact.
Yeah.
If you surround yourself with people who see your genius, see the beautifulness, the greatness in you, that's all they will talk to you.
Mhm.
Even if you don't believe it right now, you can borrow their belief.
Yep.
You know, you can borrow their belief. So
Mm.
your network, your environment is key. Um, With the young people I work with, I get them to create something called a brag book where they write down all of the amazingness in a book that they've got and they
Ooh.
use this to for themselves. As adults, we can create the same thing. I
Mhm.
have files on my laptop of testimonials from everyone that I've worked with. So every time I question myself, I will open it up and read through their words, you
Yes.
know. I spend in as much time as possible in nature.
Mhm.
I try and laugh as much as possible. I'm always finding something funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just very intentional about who I'm being every single day because that resistance will pop up and try and kick your butt. So, you know, yeah.
I love a brag book. That's good. I've
Mm,
heard people saying like reading testimonials or
yeah.
talking to a friend, but I think like, and I brag about Bamboo, which is, I'm a community director there. It's a co-working space, and
Okay.
that's my 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
And I, my whole life changed moving to Bamboo from the job that I was in before, where they they believed the things that I was doing outside of work was a conflict of interest. They
Mm,
believed that the things I
mhm.
was doing outside of work would make me less successful at work. They
Yeah.
both told me that my after work activities would set me up for failure. I would never be a CEO. I would never do this. I would never accomplish, never, never, never. All day
Okay.
long, 40 hours a week from multiple leaders in the organization. And then moving to a space like Bamboo where I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs and they see, like when they see
Mhm.
me and we talk and we like are just sharing ideas and like brainstorming and coming up with concepts and just and I'm helping their businesses grow.
Yeah.
Now they're looking at me like, oh, she's a built-in consultant. She knows what she's doing. She's a marketing genius. She's a community building genius. And they'll come
Mhm.
to me and be like,
Mhm.
I need some of your Amanda juice. Can I
Oh,
have
it's spreading your magic, Amanda.
yeah, like 40 hours a week? Yes, I have to deal with building and operations things, but I'm
Mhm.
getting paid to do what I love to do, which is help people find their magic and spreading magic all over the place.
Yes.
And so I was able to become more
Mhm.
of me in a
Mhm.
space that supported that
Look at
versus
that.
when I was in a space that was like trying to push me down and keep me
Yes.
small. And
Yes.
I was fighting to be anything, just
Mhm.
this, you know? And it
Yes.
everything small. Everything was so stressful. It was so
Mhm.
hard to execute stuff. Now it's just easy. Like,
Absolutely.
oh, we want to do this, let's go. We want to make a podcast, let's go.
See.
Start tomorrow. Start tomorrow. Start
Yeah.
today. And I feel like that who you surround yourself with is
Yeah.
everything. Who you surround yourself with, what you're consuming, what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you're eating.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, it all comes into play. And that since I've been working with a dietitian the last like maybe even 9 months now,
Mhm.
that experience, my experience with food and like what I'm eating and the knowledge of knowing what food
Yeah.
can do to fuel me and help me is also changing my life experience. So
Yeah.
that consumption,
Mhm. Mhm.
everything.
Completely different, isn't it? Completely different. And, all of that adds into how you're being. Look at that in comparison to what it was like at your initial, for your initial workplace. That's crazy. And it just goes to show you how impactful like everything is in your life, especially around your environment. I'm
We
sorry,
got a
I'm
delivery.
thank you. Yeah. It's all right. I think my son's getting it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Amanda. I told you this is likely to go off today, but at least it's all done now.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
So, your environment is everything. Everything.
oh my goodness. And I notice it too. Like I notice when I'm starting to fall off my ish because
Yeah.
my laundry will pile up. All my
Mhm.
stuff will like overflow. My diet will be worse. I'll be like over drinking coffee or I'll be like super,
Mhm.
super tired. My face will break out. You know, it's like these are all signals that my body's sending me, that my inner self is sending me. Like when my clothes are all over the floor and my room is a mess, that's usually my first sign to be like, hey,
Yeah. You notice them, and it's the really subtle things, it's the really subtle things. Like for me, it's very similar. If I
okay,
come downstairs into my living space and I'm seeing piles of books everywhere and I'm seeing things that haven't been put away, I'm starting to realize, no, I'm doing more where I'm being busy rather than being more me right now. Um, if I'm not eating properly, that's another thing. And it's not just junk, it's also skipping meals. That's also an indication.
yes.
Um, if I feel like if I just feel on edge, overwhelmed, I have
Mhm.
to ask myself the question, well, when was the last time that I created presence? When was I creative and created that presence somewhere? So you're right, it shows up in your life in so many different ways.
Mm.
Um,
It's so good. I felt like so I recently took a business class. It was 12
yeah.
weeks. It was 20 extra hours of work a week. So I was working 60 just on paper, plus all of my side hustle business, all this
Yeah.
other being a wife, being a human in the world, being a sister, a daughter, a friend. It was a lot. And I
Yeah.
felt in that whole experience, I was like, I'm gonna get through this class. It's only 12 weeks. We'll get through
Mm,
it.
mm,
By the end of it, I was like, I felt like I was in my masculine that whole time. Like the whole time. Like just
mm,
disconnected from my husband, disconnected from my inner self, disconnected from my home environment. Because
mm.
I'll come home and be like, "Hi, house.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, house." Wasn't doing any of that. Wasn't
Mhm.
walking, wasn't drinking water, was skipping meals a lot.
Yeah, we do. We do. So how did you pull yourself back from that? What did you do?
Um, well, I wore fairy wings on my final presentation. I was like, you know what?
I
I don't care
love
if you're in gray
I
suits,
love
black
that.
suits. I don't care. I'm showing up as me. I have had to brute
Mhm.
force my way through this class for the last 12
Yes.
weeks
Okay.
and not be in my I'm in your element. The request is to be in your element. I did the thing. Now I'm going to show up as me. And I
Show up.
want that
Yeah,
check. I
that's it.
want it. So
Yeah, well done.
thank you. But
Well
after
done.
that, I was like, I need to go swimming. I
Mhm.
need to go dancing. I went dancing. There was like a full moon dance party. I went with
Mm.
one of my friends. I was like, I just want to be naked outside with my girlfriend.
Just be free. Just be
Like,
free.
I just want to be
Right.
and just be
Yeah.
outside, be dancing. I started walking again, but it
Mm.
was like the realization at it came at the end. And I
Yeah.
think what I want to learn is how to recognize it at the beginning because
Yeah.
there are going to be other scenarios where I go through programs that are set up that are different than me, you know, and
Mhm.
maybe finding a way to realize that, oh, this program, the way it's structured, is
Yeah.
not in my alignment, regardless of the opportunity, the experience, the clout, whatever that
Yeah.
that I want to figure out.
That's it. I think it's, knowing what it is that you want and knowing how you learn, what kind of program you want to invest in. I've invested in tons of programs, and you're right. There's some that were really aligned with me. I'm at the end. I've just finished one. It was a therapeutic coaching diploma. That
Nice.
was phenomenal. It had all of the depth that I needed. Weekly, it had the community, it had everything that I needed.
Hmm.
And the sessions were very introspective. So it was about you as a practitioner, it was about how you would apply what you're learning. And that for me is the way that I like to learn. If you
Nice.
give me a textbook and just tell me just to read everything, I might read to a certain point, but
Yeah.
I need to know, how do I infuse that with me, Akeila the person? How do I do that? So knowing how you learn and not being afraid to ask the leaders of these programs how they teach, to make sure it
Mm.
aligns with how you like to learn, is a superpower.
Oh
Yeah,
yes. And
it's a
I think
superpower.
it clicked for me. It just clicked for me why I think that program was challenging for me and a
Mhm.
couple other programs that I've been in the past is
Yeah.
competitive. It was a competitive program. So at
Okay.
the start of the program, there was a pitch competition.
Okay.
I knew that going into it, and I was wondering why people weren't willing to collaborate during the 12 weeks. And I'm a collaborator. Throw stuff at the wall with people, bounce ideas off each other. That's
Mm,
where I find my most genius coming out when I'm just talking
okay.
with people like, oh, we should try this, we should do that. And
Yeah.
there was none of that. People didn't want to be friendly. They were friendly, but
Mm,
they had a wall up. They were
okay.
on, they were a little, oh, but you're
Yeah.
my competition. So we're gonna
Mm.
keep it here.
Completely different energy to what you normally thrive in, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it just clicked just now. And through the Miss Voluptuous pageant program, that was amazing. That was the first time I'd ever done a pageant. But I don't
Mm,
think I'll ever do a pageant again because it was competitive. That it
mm,
the whole and I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, why did it feel in disalignment? I would
mm,
rather say like we all win when we all work together and everybody's on the same page and we all have the same resources and we can
mm,
all do it together,
mm, mm, mhm.
but because we were competing, it just
Yeah.
the dynamics. And
Yeah.
there's a wall there. There's a
Yeah.
barrier because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we're gonna be going head to head. And now
That's
I know
it. Yeah, it brings on a completely different energy when you're in a competitive space,
versus
you know,
collaborative. That is
versus collaborative. Absolutely. And I feel like, so I come from a background where I was an athlete for years. I used to train track for years and years. And so coming from that space, I've always been competitive. There's certain skills that I learned from there for sure, for sure. But I feel like the side of me that needs the collaboration, needs that community, needs the connectedness, the belonging
Mhm.
wasn't developed at that point. And it's been developing over the past few years for me. And that's the way that I also like to work as well. It's about collaboration,
Yes.
about allowing me to stand out as my own person
Mhm.
and collaborating with others. And I
Yes.
think that's the thing that's missing from the business world. You know, there's a lot of competition. The business world is very competitive.
Know
If
it.
you do not stand out, how
Mm.
will people know to have you as their coach, or, you know, how will you gain clients? So we can't say that, well, there is no competition, because
Sure.
there isn't any competition with who we are. And that's why I don't wholeheartedly believe in the niching, in terms of I work with women between 35 to 45 years old. I don't
Yes.
necessarily believe in that. I believe that we are the niche. And I believe that there is no competition where you are being you, you know? So that's why I focus on that so much, because in the coaching space, there's a rhetoric about it's oversubscribed. There's loads of coaches. It's just, you know, tons of coaches. You're never going to
Sure.
succeed. And being in business is hard in general, but there is no other coach like me, because I am me. There's another coach like me. There's not
Exactly.
another coach like you, Amanda. You know, we are both separate people. We're in a personal development industry, but we are separate. And so when you focus on what it is that you bring to any environment, and you become someone who, I like to call people value amplifiers. You walk into any room and you amplify the value in there because you are being you. There
Mm.
won't be no competition, because you can't compete against yourself, you know?
Right?
So
Like,
yes,
put
for
the
speaking
words
back.
in my mouth, because all
Yeah.
of these business classes are like, analyze your competition, review your competition. Even in my past jobs, they were like, who's the competition? Who are we up against? I don't, I've never done that. Like, I get assigned that job and that request to do it, and I will not do it, because what is the point of me looking around, comparing myself to somebody who's not me in a different,
Mm,
like, we might be in the same industry, we might have the same title, but we're not doing the same thing.
mhm,
And coming into this business world as an entrepreneur, I'm finding that people are the thing that the value add that I bring is I'm like, oh, well, you need to work with this person, and you need to work with that person, and have you heard of this and that and that and that and all of these opportunities? And they're like, why are you sharing all of your? I was like, it's not for me to consume all of it by myself. Like, who would I be if I didn't share this knowledge? But
mm,
I'm finding quickly that a lot of people don't do that, and I believe that we as women are changing business for good because we're leaning into collaboration and we're leaning into our personal
yeah,
genius. And everybody's been telling me to niche down, but I love how you put it. You're like, you are the niche. And it's been in my head, and you said the words. I'm like, I don't feel like I need to niche down. Like, all of the things that I like to do create the niche of me, and
mhm.
my people are going to be attracted to me, and your people are going to be attracted to you, and your community is going to build itself because of how you're expressing yourself and doing all the things that you like to do out loud, instead of
Absolutely.
keeping it for over here or keeping it private.
Absolutely. I struggled in business for the first few years, because I was like, well, how do I niche down? What do I do? Like, do I become a confidence coach? Am I just working on confidence? Is that
No.
the only thing that I do? Well,
Right.
no, there's other things, and I've had to navigate my way through this, and know that no, it's okay. It's okay for me to be the niche. I can be the niche. And guess what? Whatever I offer to people, that can change over time as I change and I grow as well. And I take people with me on a journey. If you look at my videos from years ago, they don't look like how they would now. I don't talk about the same things,
Sure.
you know? So it's about allowing yourself to become the niche. I feel if you're in a personal development journey, it's important to have a personal brand. It's important to know what it is that you stand for. It's important for you to grow and continue growing. And it's okay for you to be the niche. And that's what I had to learn. And it took a while for me to learn that, you know.
You said something special there too, that your brand has changed with you. And I feel like we are very, as entrepreneurs and just business people, professionals in the world, we are conditioned to think that the choice is the choice for the rest of our life. And
No.
that's not how it works anymore. And so I find a lot of creatives or entrepreneurs that are starting out in their journey or that are well established. They're like, well, this is what I've said that I do. So I got to keep doing that. I'm like, who said? Who said that? Who
Yeah.
said that? I didn't say that. That
Mm,
guy next, if you want to change all of your products and services on a dime, you can do that because it's your life. You get to do whatever
it's
you want. If you want to quit
life.
and go from being whatever, a doctor
Yeah.
to a hippie, you can do that because it's your
It's
life. You are
your
literally in
life.
control.
It is
Exactly.
your life. And I feel that the idea of being able to pivot is something that we should allow into our lives as well. You know, you're able to pivot. When you're in entrepreneurship, there's so much experimentation that happens anyway. As you're experimenting with what people want, you know, because it's about finding that fine line between who you are and what you can offer people, but also what people will buy from you.
Right.
And you're not going to know that until you start putting things out. There'll be times where you have to pivot because this is what everyone says they want from you,
Mhm.
you know, and it's a part of you because they've seen it somewhere. But it's just about allowing yourself to grow and to elevate and to change. And I can guarantee that when you're doing that, your community will follow and they will grow and they will elevate and they will change.
100%.
Yeah.
I was just talking to a woman yesterday who's launching her coaching program for young adults, and she's been in the professional marketing industry for over 30 years. And she's like, well, I really need 5 people. And I was like, well, how many people are interested right now in your
Yeah.
program right now? Because this is going to be the first iteration of her program ever to the public. She's like, I have
Mhm.
3 people interested. I was like, start with 3. Start with
Yeah.
3. Why
Yeah.
wait to get 5 when you have 3 interested and you can work with these 3 and say, okay, that was great. That really sucked. I'm going to just cut that all together
Yeah.
and get content, get knowledge, get experience, get testimonials. But that goes to
Absolutely.
everything. It's like if I would have waited till I had 300 guests to come to the clothing swap festival that I do, I would never get to 300 guests. It just doesn't work. So I had to start with 5. I had to
You've got to
start.
start where you're at.
You gotta start. You just gotta start.
You've got to start. You know, I shared a story the other day in one of the groups I was running a meditation circle for the whole month of July. And so I shared a story of what happened when, again, it was my youngest son. He was only about 6 at that kind of age.
Mm,
And I was studying on a master's program. I was working. I was also running my business part time as well. And I was also doing like just ad hoc coaching sessions for other organizations and being a single mom.
mm,
And the stress was just, it was too much one day. And I remember sitting down on the floor, I've got my books everywhere. And he comes in, he's shooting Spider-Man, little imaginary Spider-Man webs at me. And he's like, Mom, you look stressed. What's the matter?
yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, well, he's a kid, he's not gonna know. I'm like, I'm just overwhelmed. I've got a lot of things to do. And he was like, yeah, but what's wrong? I'm like, I just don't know where to start. And he was like, well, why don't you just start at the beginning? And he looked at me as if to say, like,
Duh.
well, duh, why don't you just start at the beginning? And I'm looking at this kid, I'm thinking, no, okay, you're a genius. And I'm like, well, son, where's the beginning? I was literally like, where is the beginning to a 6-year-old? Like, tell me.
Yeah.
And he was like, Mom, the beginning is wherever you want it to be.
Oh my
And I was
God.
sitting there, like his mouth open, looking at this kid, and he was like, the beginning is wherever you want it to be. And
Mm,
he's half continued to play Spider-Man and shoot webs at people. So my thing is that we overcomplicate things. You know, we can get so bogged down with how many clients we want, what program we want to put out there, what we want to do next. How about we just start at the beginning, and the beginning is wherever we choose it to be. It's more important for us to get the action, get going, rather than just thinking. We can think ourselves into a black hole.
Yeah.
You know, it's the action that's important, and we need to just start sometimes, just do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, the feedback you get from doing the thing is what will show you what's next.
Exactly. And I, for a while there, I was thinking about being a confidence coach. And I was like, I don't even know how to explain what confidence is. I don't even know what that is. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, confidence comes from activity. Confidence comes from trying. Confidence
Yeah,
comes from action. And you have to step out of your mind into the world, into your body, and just do a thing.
yeah,
And that will give you more confidence to do the next thing. I
yeah,
quickly pivoted because I was like, you know what? This is just, that
yeah.
is not the industry that I want to go into.
Mhm.
But what I did learn from telling people and doing coaching sessions was I don't want to be a confidence coach, but I would
Yeah.
have never known that had I not tried
If
it.
if you didn't try, and there's nothing wrong against confidence
There's
coaching.
nothing
There's
wrong.
some
It just wasn't
fabulous,
for
really successful confidence coaches. But as you said, as soon as you said it
yeah.
and started to do something, you were like, no, that's not for me. But you wouldn't have known that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the last thing I ever want to do in my life is like wish that I would have done a thing. Like wish
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have just done that or I could have been this great
Hmm.
whatever. I'm gonna
Hmm.
be like, okay, let's try. Let's try it.
Let's try it. Let's do the action.
Let's
See
try
what
it, see what
happens.
happens. If
See what
nobody watches, that's even better because I'm like, okay, I can figure it out while we're up here.
happens.
But
Mm,
my husband always says, he's like, you experiment on a grand scale. And I was like,
mm,
yes, but those experiments started out really, really small. And I've
yeah,
been doing these experiments for many years. I've been hosting events for well over 15 years. So
yeah.
he's looking
Wow.
at me and we've known each other for 8 years. And he's
Mhm.
like, you every time you experiment, you get the whole community, 300
Yeah.
people to show up. And I'm like, yeah, but I used to do events where I was experimenting and one person showed up.
Yes, that's it. But you started. You
Exactly.
started. And I feel like we live in a society now where everyone sees social media and it's like, wow, actually, I need to now and go and be like this person. And I'm just starting. It's allowing yourself grace to have one person show up to an event, to have one person sign up to your program, that
Yes.
it's okay for us to start at the beginning. It's okay. You learn, you
Yep.
find mentors or coaches or other people that have done the same thing as you, communities who are doing what you do, and you learn and you go. But it's a starting that will help. We have a lot of 10 years overnight successes, but people have been working for 10 years, but they don't always tell the story of that.
Yeah. The grind, and I think that if there was anything that I regret from that experience then to where I'm feeling now, is I would have held more gratitude for the people that showed up than concern for the people that didn't.
Yeah.
That is the big thing for me. I spent so much time thinking about all these people that didn't show up when I should have just been pouring into the people that did.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that now, and I know that now, and now we're 15 years later, but 15 years ago, there was one person sitting right in front of me, and I was like, nobody showed up.
Yeah.
And but I showed up.
Well, you showed up and that person showed up,
And
right?
that is and all of those people that have been there since early,
Yeah.
early on, we still have this beautiful it's like brothers and sisters. Those are my people. You know,
Yeah.
we
Exactly.
built this bond, we built this relationship. I got to sit with you, just
Absolutely.
and we got to figure this out together, and we got to experiment together. And then you started experimenting on your own stuff because you saw me experimenting. And if there's the most sexy thing in the world, I think, is the act of trying something. Like, oh,
Absolutely.
you just try something. I'm like, that's sexy. Look
That's
like, like
it.
sexy. Like, oh, you're gonna give this a go. You're gonna show up for yourself, even if you don't have all the stuff and the equipment. I used to do this show on my Instagrams. If you go
Yeah.
deep in the Instagrams, there
Just
was an Instagram live show that I was doing. I was doing this in my bedroom, and I'm like, the act of trying is sexy. I'm like, that looked good. That stuff was good. It was great.
Absolutely. It's that you get it's courageous, it's a sexy thing to do. It brings out another level of you as well. You know, you're pushing yourself without knowing what the outcome will be. You're doing it, you just have to go. Like yourself, I remember 2016, I was having a New Year's Day goal setting party. I did it from my house in my living room, and two people came, like two, and one of those was my sister, and the other one was a friend. And
Mhm.
like yourself, I remember like, I can't believe no one else came. That's just, it's crazy. But I've learned that since then, no matter how many people show up, you serve them like you're serving the most important person in front of you. Whether it's one person, whether it's 10 people, you serve them because it's the energy that matters. And you never know who that one person could then go and tell about the impact you've had on their life as well.
And
So
you
you serve.
showed up for you.
You
You
showed up for you
for
too.
you. That
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
is the bigger kicker that I think that we don't even talk about is that like
You showed up for yourself.
you said you were going to do a thing. You put it on the calendar.
Mm,
You did it and you showed up and you didn't, cuz I've been in situations where I was like I'm just going to
mm.
cancel it. I'm going to cancel it.
Yeah,
Cancel it. Nobody's registered, just cancel it. It's going to be just me and one other person. I've done that. I've done and I've seen other people do that where they'll just
yeah.
cancel it because they let the thoughts and the fears and the
Mhm, mhm.
but I'm like
Um,
you can just move with that and say, "Okay, I hear you and it's okay to be afraid, but I'm
yeah,
safe.
yeah.
Nothing
I'm
bad
safe.
can happen." The word, and I always think about this because we always go to worst case scenario. I'm like, worst case scenario, we
Mm,
do it and I do it by myself. Best case scenario, somebody comes and we have a good ass time.
look at that.
Usually I'm like, okay, worst case scenario is not that bad.
It's not that bad. And as you said, keeping promises to yourself is the best thing you can do for your confidence, for your self-esteem, for everything, for business growth, keeping the promises you made to yourself. And
Mhm.
if you think about it strategically, you could record that session if it's just you and you could sell it later anyway. So
Literally,
yeah.
literally. I just had, and this will be my final thought, and I'll ask you two more questions.
Okay.
So I literally just sent out the biggest proposal that I've ever sent to a large company,
Okay.
and they didn't respond. They ghosted me, but I was writing it and I was shaking a little bit writing it. I was like, oh, this is really high. And my mentors and my advisors were like, you need to double that. You need to double that price. So I doubled it. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is really high, but so I'm writing it, I'm sweating, I'm putting the number in, I'm calling all my people. I'm like, I'm going to tap you in. When they close on this, I'm going to tap you in. And I'm
Yeah.
writing into the budget and I'm writing you into the budget. And I had like 7 different people.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was telling them, and with all of them, I was like, if they say yes and no one shows up, worst case scenario, we can make a shit ton of content. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is our content plan. This is our execution plan. This is what happens if 50 people show up. This is what happens if nobody shows up. But this
Absolutely.
is what's going to happen when they sign on the dotted line. They ended up ghosting me, but that activity was huge for me. And I find so much gratitude for it because I was able to
Mhm,
write the
mhm.
thing, say the words, make the ask, and
Oh,
ship it. I
yes.
sent it.
Yes.
So somebody's gonna pick that. Somebody's gonna say yes to that. They were just not the right people, and it
Yes.
wasn't
Of
an alignment.
course.
But it was that process of being like, what do I do if this is a complete flop? Well, we can
Mhm.
do this, this, and this. And what do I do if this pops off? We could do this, this, and this.
There's always options.
And I
Always
sent it.
options.
And I, there was a brief second where I was like,
Mhm.
but I was like, but I sent it, and I've never written a proposal like that before. I've never wrote a proposal that
Absolutely.
large before. I've never put that number down before. And
Mm,
in my mind, and what I try to tell myself is because I was able to visualize that as a possibility, somebody's going to buy that. It just might
yeah,
not be that person.
yeah, absolutely. It's, you know what? There's so many doors that you can go through with this proposal. And it's about who you became in that process of writing that proposal. You
Mhm.
have become someone else by even doubling your figures and putting together this proposal and sending it out. So now it's like, okay, that person, that's their loss.
Sure.
That's their
Yeah,
loss.
no
There's
problem.
so many other organizations and people that would be able to take up that proposal, that it's going to be a success with or without them. There's no, there's other options.
Exactly. But that was a sweaty moment. I was like,
I
definitely.
can imagine. I can imagine.
It was crazy. Okay, we are already at an hour. Before we
Gosh.
go,
Okay.
one last piece of advice you have for our amazing viewers.
Okay. Start from the beginning, and that's wherever you choose it to be, and infuse your genius into that as well. You have amazing things going on. You, Amanda, your viewers, all of us, we have amazing things going on. It just requires you to start from the beginning, choose where that is, and just make sure you infuse your genius into whatever it is that you do. And that's what I'm going to leave with.
You're amazing. This
And
was
so are
beautiful.
you, Ian. So are
This is
you.
so good. Before we go, tell everybody where they can find you on the internet.
Okay. No problem. So on Instagram, it is at Akeila Browne, and my name is spelled Akeila Browne, right? On Facebook, it's Akeila Browne Coaching. And you can also find me on LinkedIn at Akeila Browne as well. So yeah, that's where everyone can find me.
Yay! This was amazing. I knew this conversation was going to be juicy and good, but I didn't know that I was going to walk away with my creative genius statement, with all these new tools to pause, to start at the beginning, and that's wherever I want it to be.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna have to make a trip out to London to come visit you.
Come and visit.
Because
Come
I
and
need to come
visit.
back
Yeah.
and I need to see the city from your eyes because we went and it was amazing. But the whole time, Labrie and I were like, where do the black people hang out? Where do the brown people hang out? We were like,
Oh, we gotta go to London or Birmingham, and I'll show you. I will show you, Amanda. No
please
problem.
show us. We were like, we're trying to. It was an amazing experience. I would never it was so freaking cool. But I was like, we need to go out back with some black and brown folks because I'm trying to see.
I'm just trying to see something.
I'm trying to see we. I'm trying to see us. You know. So I to tell my husband we'll have to make a trip back. And I might have to bring Detroit with me.
Come along. Seriously, you just let me know when that is, and we will connect. I will show you the spots where to go. A fabulous entertainer, so I'll show you. I'll show you where to go.
Oh, I can't wait. This is happening.
This is happening for sure.
Y'all heard it here first. We're do a group trip from Detroit to London, and Akeila's going to show us a good time. We will do a little yoga meditation session. We'll do a coaching session. We'll do some content. I see it.
Let's go.
We'll build it.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And all of you watching, thank you for being here with us. We feel your energy. We're so grateful that you're here. I know we have a lot of new viewers lately. And so I just want to say thank you. It's exciting because when I first started, I was like, nobody's watching, but it's okay because I get to talk to amazing people. But now you guys are watching and enjoying. So share with us if there's any people or if you're interested in being on the show. We'd love to have you. Connect with Akeila on Instagram. And we will see you next week on the Let's Glow Show. It's Amanda Sweet. See you later. And now I got to find the end button. Bye.